Okay, you probably clicked this video because you're interested in Azeroth, right? If the old world will be made anew, and what the next few expansions will bring, how Azeroth will exist, and beyond the World Soul Saga, what the hell Blizzard intends to do. Now, before any of that happens, we'll go to Kaz Algar. All that exists of it right now is this big X on the map. What that X actually marks is an island called the Isle of Dorn, with most of the war within taking place deep below. With that expansion, Blizzard are going deep, not wide with this one. And as they build it, another division of Team 2 is, as we speak, rebuilding Quel'Thalas. Such is their parallel development pipeline, and as they do that, they'll be making new assets. And for one new example of that, take a look at this image of the Isle of Dorn. Does it not look exactly like Loch Modan to you? It's just another example of something that's been happening since Legion, the creation of modern assets for modern expansions that look just fine in the old world. Indeed, for many creatures, the old creatures, they've been replaced with the new ones. So, asset-wise, the idea of a revamp, it makes sense. And then, with Dragonflight's low-key re-establishment of Azerothian geopolitics, the lore too is ready. Ready for an Azeroth built to a scale so large, it could not be achieved with a single expansion. That work, right now, is underway. As is our own growth, and that's aided by today's sponsor. Squarespace.com/Bellular Gaming. So here's the deal. They spent 2023 shipping loads of new features, and that means you gotta check them out. Their already amazing site editor has got fairly massive new features. Fluid Engine is probably my favorite. It lets you just put things where you want. You know the clunk of most site builders? They've just kind of got rid of that, so that's sweet. But it works with Blueprint. Blueprint lets you build your own Squarespace template from scratch. And between these two features, making a website that looks terrific has never been so easy. And with bio sites, you can also make an awesome link in bio to go with your new website. It just makes it so easy to get yourself out there online, and the same ease of use and design that led to their award-winning templates being so, it shines through everything that they do. And that means that anyone, regardless of design experience, can make a modern, slick-looking website with lovely fonts, lovely colors, and that's responsive across mobile, tablet, and desktop. And what's amazing is this: you can make an account today and build your site for free using my link. It's actually really fun, be it just a quick personal page or maybe your portfolio if you're, say, an artist or a photographer. I think you'll feel a nice sense of accomplishment at the end, and when you're ready to send it live, you can use code Bellular Gaming to get 10% off their annual plan. Let me remind you of Blizzard's official stance on the idea of a world revamp. Ian Hazzikostas said this, quote, "We're definitely open to it at some point. If you take a step back and look at the world, we've painted ourselves into a corner where we have these iconic locations, but we've already used them." So yes, they get it. And that quote is not just Ian telling us they're open to the idea, it's him doing so just before the reveal of the World Soul Saga. And that means, well, what happens when the saga is done? That's where we've got to review the world of Warcraft. Azeroth and Kalimdor, both stuck in the Cataclysm. The Burning Crusade, well, you don't really need to revamp that. Warlords of Draenor sort of already did that. But Outland is not all that was in the Burning Crusade. We have Quel'Thalas, Azure Mist, and Blood Mist Isle, all on our home continents but added in the Burning Crusade. The Midnight expansion is seeking to revamp Quel'Thalas. It's all about light versus void, so I wouldn't even be surprised if the Draenei homeland saw some love. And then we have Wrath of the Lich King and Northrend. Well, the Last Titan is doing a full revamp of Northrend. These are massive core regions to World of Warcraft, and yes, large things happened elsewhere in future expansions, but considering Warcraft 3, which is the heart, the root of WoW, it's Eastern Kingdoms, Kalimdor, and Northrend. Pandaria and beyond, I honestly believe they can stay safely as they are. They look and they feel new enough. Their lore, it's not vital to Warcraft's core. So, returning to the home continents then. We just reclaimed Gilneas, but learned there are more Scarlets out there. The Night Elves have a new home in the Dragon Isles, but they are still set in rebuilding their Kalimdor holdings and one day even regrowing a new home from the ashes of Teldrassil. Say what you want about Sylvanas, I suppose she certainly did leave that soil rather fertilized. These are clear hooks for Blizzard to use later, but there's more than that. Take Dagran II, son of Moira, the Emperor of the Dwarves. The Council of the Three Hammers is not a permanent solution to rule, it was something built to govern their kind while he comes of age. I mean, I've long wondered why HD dwarf retextures kept on showing up in the data mining, why they needed to build new Ironforge guards and new steam tanks. Surely then, the ascension of an emperor, the beginning of a new era, demands a facelift of Ironforge. You might be wondering, how is all of this possible? Well, in my view, World of Warcraft's patch cadence does it. Dragonflight has seen 4 Heritage Armor questlines so far, and with the Draenei and the Trolls in 10.2.7, that will be 6. It will also be the end, where everyone will have had a Heritage Armor quest. Beyond that, what are we doing? Holidays or something new? If I were betting, I'd be betting on something new. And given that there is so much just lingering around these areas, and that with Gilneas we're clearly able to revisit these areas without doing a full revamp, I think that means the Blizzard can still have action set in our home continents over the next few years. But fundamentally, Ian talked about them being painted into a corner. Well, the good news is, they're expending ludicrous amounts of effort and money painting themselves out of that corner. Midnight then. Dynamic flight is now a core thing. It's how we move around the world. It's fast. It's so fast that Azeroth feels tiny, unless it's at the scale of the Dragon Isles, a place that canonically is not that big, but in-game is about the same size as Northrend. 4 modern zones taking up the space that, per old Warcraft, built with epic flying in mind, was 10 zones. That's the ratio we're dealing with, and that makes the Midnight Revamp fascinating. You may be worried that would stretch us too thin, but not really. You see, maps of Quel'Thalas have been inconsistent for a long time. Quel'Thalas, it has actually moved multiple times in different locations. The size of the Amanai Trolls land has also changed greatly. Indeed, these forest trolls, they inhabited an area that once was half the size of Quel'Thalas, but now they're currently stuffed into a small corner of the Ghostlands. And hell, without the Scourge, what's even going on with the Ghostlands? This is where the revamp can actually do work. Have the Forest Riders retaken Windrunner Spire? Is it the perfect place for the Void Elves to move into? What have they done? What could malign Void forces do within the Ghostlands, an area, of course, that is, well, under its soil, littered with the bones of the dead? It is then easy to see the expansion of these areas. As for Silvermoon, well, a rebuilt Silvermoon is the natural evolution of Borealis and Valdrakken, both wings of the city united into a beacon for elfkind. Another core beat the Blizzard have said in Midnight is the reuniting of lost elven tribes, and indeed if you speak to Ilaria Windrunner in the Stormwind Embassy, she will say that one day Silvermoon will stand with the Alliance. Or I suppose rather her people, the High Elves, will. Now, inject a few files of creativity, and you could even see a Night Elven embassy up there, maybe a Night Elf quarter, and if some fan theories are to be true, maybe even a Naga quarter. Moving north, though, Quel'Thalas is not only the focus of the expansion, but it's its biggest opportunity. They can resize the island fully for dragon riding. They can make it massive and place a great Sunwell raid in the center. Quel'Thalas could even land big cosmic patch zones, like our first trip to Koresh, the ethereal homeworld destroyed by Dimensius, who does happen to be lining up with, well, Xal'atath, and that all is connected to Midnight. But that's getting away from Azeroth. Core point here, Quel'Thalas will be greatly expanded in size and detail. Many story elements will finally be brought up to the current day. For Blizzard to craft it at its new scale, expect a full home for the Amanai, an expanded Ghostlands, expanded Eversong, rebuilt Silvermoon, and a far larger Quel'Thalas. An in-game region that finally will be worthy of its canonical importance. Something that is very true of Northrend's original introduction to WoW. Something that was absolutely loved at the time, and something the updating of which will be a mighty task for the last Titan. There is more to Northrend than you know. Let me explain. During the War of the Scaleborn, both Iridikron and Verinoth had bases in Northrend. Iridikron's was called Harrowdeep. It was somewhere deep underground. Some speculate that it may not have been too far away from the place we now know as Icecrown. Just before that, in Fractures of Time, Iridikron had said that he would return when the Titans did, and then in the epilogue, he left the story for the foreseeable future. He's almost certainly going to come back in the last Titans, so no doubt his return could bring with it Harrowdeep, his old base, which is in Northrend. That's something that does make me think of Northrend's underground potential. Xal'atath, of course, has only stepped out of the shadows because the old gods are a bit dead, but in exploring Azeroth, Northrend, Magni, and Bran, they find evidence of Yogg-Saron's lingering madness. The puzzle box of Yogg-Saron even gets a mention in that book. It's said to have never been opened, but that its opening will foreshadow terrible consequences for any who do. I suppose then that's another bullet loaded into Chekhov's gun. Now, part of this that I'm torn on is Azul Narub, because on the one hand, it was always planned to be a humongous underground zone in Wrath of the Lich King. They never quite did it, so doing it now would make a lot of sense to finish that unfinished business. But on the other hand, the War Within will have given us plenty of Nerubian. So it's a question of, 3 years after the War Within, would we still have an appetite to go back to a Nerubian-related area? Anyhow, as for the Scourge, well, the Ebon Blade have permanently moved to Icecrown to mop up what remains. Winterguard is now a fortress, but even after trying to shoot her down, Naxxramas floats just outside and still is disgorging Scourge. And while the Scourge are there, the major story of them is that they have fallen apart, that they don't have leadership anymore, and that gives space for the rest of the continent to breathe. Koldara will be blue Dragonflight territory. It will be friendly. You can imagine what Wyrmrest will look like post-Dragonflight, post-Revamp. Maybe you'll see the elves doing something with Vordrasil in the Grizzly Hills. There is indeed a deep connection to Yogg-Saron that was always intended to be there and intended to be explored more in Wrath of the Lich King. That is something that they will be able to do with this expansion's Northrend revamp. What are the Naga in the Borean Tundra going to be doing? Maybe if some of them have a reunification with the elves in Midnight. Have the Tuskarr return to their ancestral homes without Kvaldir attacks? There is endless, exciting potential. Clearly, you can see the massive potential here. One group I haven't mentioned are the Vrykul. I think that they are perfect for this expansion. Yes, they were once our enemies, but you could see how they could be our friends given they are literally our ancestors, and also given the resurgence of Tyr, a being that many Vrykul very much did respect and perhaps even worship a bit. And the idea of there being an allied race, well, it does make a lot of sense. Many say Naga for Midnight. I think that does actually make sense. We see the Earthen with the War Within, so why not another fan-requested Titan-descended allied race in this expansion? And of course, this is an expansion that will change everything when its conclusion comes. The whole point is that this is when the Titans come back. We'll likely go back to Ulduar. We will see just how deep the Titans' chains run, what's really going on. And the other side of this is very clear. Okay, stay with me. Imagine it's the year 2029. Blizzard have already revamped vast swathes of Azeroth, right? Quel'Thalas, Northrend, maybe other bits along the way. Maybe they have kept those older world affairs up to date, using content akin to Heritage Armor questlines. But now it's 2029. They have a gargantuan library of assets. 2029 is also something special. Not only is it the end of the World Soul Saga, based on their current and proposed timings, it's also the 25th anniversary of World of Warcraft. That will happen November 24th, 2029. It's a major milestone that comes at the end of a Grand 3 expansion arc. Thinking then of what Ian said just before World Soul Saga was revealed, the future is clear. Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms. These would be the largest, the most ambitious rebuilds of all. And be it in 1 or 2 expansions, by World Soul Saga's end, Blizzard will find themselves with a team who are very experienced in remaking old Warcraft zones, a team with access to a massive library of assets, and a pacing requirement of patch cadences, etc., that will fit the revamp. World Soul Saga's ending will likely be so grand that it will even dwarf the ending of Legion, but the problem is you cannot escalate further from there. Aman'Thul cannot fall over and with his last words utter that a cosmos divided will not survive what is to come. And yeah, I mean, I'm kind of sorry for poking you in the Shadowlands, but I did do it to make a point. Point is, a period of exhaling, of breathing, of re-establishment, of, in a sense, a World of Warcraft 2. Us re-exploring the lands that we started in all those years ago. A time that can act as a reset of power creep. One that, like with World of Warcraft's first release, will just let us be in the world. Essentially, a new foundation. And that would essentially be that. The biggest questions of Warcraft answered by the end of the World Soul Saga, ushering in Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor, joining Northrend and Quel'Thalas in a revamp, fundamentally leaving us with a fully modern and ready to go into the future World of Warcraft. That's what I think is happening. Okay, let me know what you think is happening. To me, this is a plan that honestly is fairly exciting. I mean, this, with roughly something going on every 8 weeks, I mean, damn, it actually does seem like a pretty damn good time to be a Warcraft fan. That is it for today's video. If you want to dive into some of the deeper lore of the World Soul Saga, specifically of The Last Titan, you can check out this video. We've had so much lore on the channel, so check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. And with that, I will see you next time.